Yeah. So whether we're eating lunch that day or not, it's good to have a backpack. It's good to have sunscreen. It's good to have water. It's good to have snacks. It's good to have, extra gloves, a pair of low light goggles, pair of sunny day goggles, or just lenses. It's good to have those backpacks. It's good to have some of that necessary stuff in those backpacks, and we just store them on the mountain, typically in the parks. For those that don't know, there's also some other places, some like mid-mountain restaurant type deals where there's good backpack storage, and we really haven't had any theft issues or anything like that leaving the backpacks on the mountains. It's kind of what we've been doing for years. But anyways, so some of these groups, and you'll have to, talk to the head coaches or you'll get communication from the head coaches and the lead coaches when this starts. Some of these groups, some of these programs, we're going to end our days at like 1:30. And some of these groups will still go all day. We're going to really monitor the snow conditions. This is one of the things that we consider crucial. Honestly, the snow's pretty low tide still right now. So these days are going to be shorter on snow. We'll utilize the Woodward facility quite a bit more, especially in the early season. So some of the things that this group will need, along with their copper pass, is they're going to need a Woodward pass as well. We'll utilize the barn, especially on Saturdays, like 1 to 3 sessions, 2 to 4 sessions. Those don't need to be pre-booked anymore. The barn's back to full capacity. But again, you'll get these communications from head coach, lead coach. So Mandy's the head coach here. Richard Bennett is also a lead coach, and Kirsten Lima is also a lead coach for the Big Mountain program. So it's communication from them is going to be key. Copper Mountain, their new slogan is the Athlete's Mountain. And, they've had lots of slogans throughout the years. This is by far my favorite one, and I think they're living up to it. So they give us, we will have a training lane at Copper Mountain, much like we did with some of these programs last year in the Secret Pass. The Secret Pass is gone. So this training lane is now for like team snowboarders, skiers and snowboarders, competitive snowboarders, and that pass is only available to kids on these select teams, which is fantastic. So that training lane, you don't need to purchase anything different. You may have noticed the price of the Copper Pass is a little different, but it's to include that training lane. So it's really not changed at all when you look at it that way, because we used to have to buy the Copper Pass and the Secret Pass. Now it's all just one. And that Secret Pass isn't available to everybody anymore. It's pretty much just us. So we have the training lane. Copper started doing spring camps last year. And those spring camps are only going to get better. They're going to turn into the best camps like in the entire country right here in our backyard. I think come January, February, you'll see what I'm talking about and why that's going to happen. I don't want to say anything too soon or say something that I shouldn't at this point, but it'll become pretty clear very soon. So we get discounts on those spring camps. So Team Summit kids get 50% off those camps compared to kids in other programs. We get discounts on summer camps, big discounts compared to kids in other programs. When they do airbag days, and I think we're going to see some more airbags. Those airbags are offered at discounts for Team Summit kids compared to all other programs. And we also get the discounted Woodward barn pass as well. So Copper Mountain is supporting what we do and what our kids do in a huge way. And so it's really important when we're there. They have employees that are new and sometimes not great at what they do. It's just important that we are respectful at Copper Mountain, because they have exceeded our expectations big time in what they're doing for us. Mandy, do we have any questions on here yet?
Yes, we have one asking if they're going to need to buy a separate Woodward barn pass for the season.
Yep. The answer is yes. That Woodward barn pass, I believe the total is $160 on those passes. And the barn is great, whether they're with the team or not. Like, use the barn. Barn's great. We're going to try and use it at least once a week this whole winter. I know that. So the price on that pass is $150, and then they have like tax, and then they have their resort fee, and I think it comes out to $160. Anything else on there?
That's all. Well, Emma's mom said you're the best.
Oh, thanks, Trisha. Thank you. Appreciate that. Moving on. So when you go to teamsummit.org, in the upper right, next to that Campminder login, there's a calendar tab. So you can find calendars for your program on that calendar tab. And I think everyone's pretty good at it at this point, but that's where the calendars are. This is kind of an old screenshot. There's also a Big Mountain calendar as well. And I'm going to meet with Kirsten this week to start populating that Big Mountain calendar. So the Big Mountain one has events on there. And that's about it. So we have our sort of event plan pieced together, and I'm going to meet with Kirsten to see what she wants to do, the first couple of weeks and over the holidays and everything, and get some days on that Big Mountain calendar. 201, 301 should have some pretty thorough stuff on there. I think there's some work I need to do regarding events on the 201, 301 calendars. And then Academy, I'm falling behind, but sorry, Academy. I know you guys, I see you the most. So I've got some catch up to do on the Academy calendar right now. But once you click on those calendars, you get something that looks like this, pretty basic. If you were to click on these events, like a 9 a.m. Copper or Aspen Rail Jam, it's going to have some details if you were to click on their meeting spots, stuff like that. So, so take a look at the calendars. They'll get more detailed here very soon. We have calendar questions. Typically, we have calendar questions.
We don't have anything yet.
Okay, cool. So there's a few things that the national governing bodies that we're a part of sort of require us to do as coaches. One of those things is we have some rules regarding concussions, and we don't like to say concussions. That's the C word. We just say head injuries, and that's it. So in Colorado, it's actually a law, and it's called the Jake Snakenberg Act, that if we suspect a kid has a head injury, it's our job to pull him out, and it's for the safety of the kid. The Jake Snakenberg Act came about because there's a kid, I believe, playing football, and he got a head injury. The coach let him keep playing on, and the kid ended up dying. And so, that's absolutely, we're trying to avoid that, as well as things that are less severe. It's for the kids. We want to keep the kids safe. This can sometimes result in some kind of tense situations. A kid hits their head in the practice runs for a contest, and it's like, man, this isn't going very well. We want to pull them out. They've put in tons of work to get to where they are, wanted to perform well in the contest. We understand that. Like, it breaks our heart as much as anybody's, but long term, it's the right move, and we'll do it. So when in doubt, we pull them out. But some of the tools that we do have available to us. So once we pull them out, they need to seek a medical professional, get evaluated by a medical professional so that they can come back to train. Once we pull them out, that's what needs to happen. And according to that law, medical professionals like a medical doctor or a physical therapist, it does not include chiropractors. So a lot of chiropractors will say that they're able to evaluate concussion, but based on the law, chiropractor does not satisfy those requirements. So chiropractor doesn't cut it for this one. But anyways, so medical professional, we have a medical professional. Her name is Rachel, and Rachel is really good about responding to our phone calls. And a lot of times she's just right there on snow with us. So when we're suspecting something, we will consult Rachel, and sometimes Rachel she can make the calls. She can remove that doubt. much better than we can. So that is a route that we will go as often as possible. And a huge perk, Rachel costs the team nothing. Her whole salary, everything is paid for by Vail Summit Orthopedics. So she's a huge asset to our program, and a really nice asset that Vail Summit Orthopedics provides us. And we use her, like we use her in the weirdest hours, and she answers her phone and is extremely productive for us. So the other thing that we're required to do as coaches is we do this safe sport stuff. And now, all of you, we encourage you to go to safesport.org as well. And there's a family safe sport, so a parents and kids safe sport thing. Also, Safe Sport has this deal that's called the MAP, and that's the Minor Athlete Abuse and Prevention Policy. Safe Sport's been around for a long time, but it became a federal law after the Larry Nassar USA gymnastics incident. So Safe Sport is now law, and part of that law is we are not to have any one-on-one communications or interactions with the kids. And the way a one-on-one interaction is defined is something that is not observable or interruptible by outside parties. So that includes like text messages, email communications, social media DMs. So anytime a kid is texting one of us, if they could just put the parent on the text as well, that's such a big deal. And I tell you what, it is so hard to not just like shoot a text back. When a kid asks you a question, it's so instinctive to just shoot a text back. And we're all probably guilty of it a little bit. So if you could have the kids text us and you, so it's a group chat, that really helps us out a lot. And the other thing with some of this group, because there is some people in this group who may end up traveling overnight and stuff like that, we do share houses. We will never share rooms with kids. It may happen that we have 18-year-olds on the team and they may share rooms with minors, but you guys will be informed and need to consent to those situations as well. So those are some things that happen. Say it's one athlete going to some super high level event. There are ways so that they can share a rental car with their coach or whatever. Like those are some things that we need to get parent permission on as well. So if those things come across your email threads or whatever, that's why they're coming up. And if you have questions about that, we're always happy to answer there. Yeah. There's some questions there, Mandy?
Yeah. They're asking if Rachel is an MD, and I believe she is a athletic trainer.
Yeah, she's working on her PhD. She's not an MD. She's a physical therapist. And so that physical therapist part has she's got some approval there. She's got, I don't know the correct terms, but that's what it is. Yeah. Moving on. COVID update. So super exciting. This was like 4 slides last year. This will be the only COVID slide we have this year. It does affect some of the kids here. So if we're doing overnight travel, any of the kids participating in overnight travel with the team, or even long day travel, I don't know if we have any of those events or not, but those kids need to be vaccinated. If they're not vaccinated, they just travel with their parents and it's all good. Those kids need to be vaccinated though to participate in overnight team travel. We're allowed to eat inside again. Super exciting. We have our own gym. A lot of kids have been participating in the gym, and we wear masks in our gym. And when we pick kids up from school, we wear masks in the van as well. So that's kind of our COVID update there. Outside of that, we just follow resort protocol and whatever the contest protocol is regarding COVID. So yeah, really happy to shrink this down to one slide. So a lot of you guys are hopefully familiar with what goes on with USASA. So USASA is the national governing body, and Rocky Mountain Series is the organization that administers the USASA contest for us. So everything has moved, RockyMountainSeries.com. I'm actually not sure that exists anymore. I think everything's just on the team app now. And I don't know, I have found that the team app is much more useful on my phone than it is on desktop, which is a little bit frustrating. But if you don't know what the team app is, it looks like the Superman symbol, but it's a green T. And you just go in there and you look for USASA Rocky Mountain Series, and there's lots of updates, lots of important info. But these contests are open now. They're about half full. Most of the contests are about 50% full, which is kind of normal as soon as they open. So it's not a terrible rush, but a lot of these do sell out. A lot of the border crosses and the slopes do sell out. I'm going to go to the next slide here. Some of this group has actually been participating in these events for a while and never had the opportunity to do a nationals. We've had nationals canceled the last couple of years, and it will be coming back this year. So it's very exciting. But the way nationals works is they create a national ranking list, and they create that list based on your best 3 results in a discipline. So if you do 3 slope comps, you have 3 scores. Even if you do like 5 slope comps, your best 3 scores are the ones that count. And you may have seen points on the results list next to your result. And those points are your best finishes. So you actually get 10 points for every rider that you beat in a contest. And that's why the points change a little bit. So no 2 first places are created equal, and no 2 third places or 5th places are created equal either. So it's the points you get from those contests. They just add them up and they create a national rank. So then when it comes nationals time, the kids who win the series, which our series, I think, is your best 2 results out of 3 contests. So if you win the series, you get invited to nationals. After that, it goes to the national rankings. And what happens is they'll invite a bunch of riders, and some kids will turn down their spots, for whatever reason. Like a lot of them are in Maine and they don't want to come out here, so they turn down their spot. Maybe they get hurt, they turn down their spot. So as kids turn down their spot, it just goes to the next person in line, next person in line, next person in line. So there can be a lot of sort of angst, especially amongst the youngest kids sometimes to get their kids qualified for nationals and whatever. And what we've found, at least pre-COVID, is kids 10 and under, they qualify for nationals. 1 contest, and they qualify for nationals. Kids 11 and over in slope style is a completely different story. 10 and under, this really isn't a big deal, and there's not much to pay attention to. 11 and over in slope style becomes a different game. You really need 3 solid scores in slope style, not just scores, but good scores in slope style to qualify. Border cross is getting harder for kids 11 and older, not younger than 11. So Menahunis and up. Border cross is getting more challenging, but what we found is you really just need 3 scores. So kids with 2 scores are starting to not make it in border cross. Kids with 3 scores are typically okay. Pipe, everyone gets an invite for pipe. And so that's really not a big deal. Rail jam is absolutely the hardest event to get invited to, just because they don't take very many kids. They take like 35 kids, and there's 32 series in the country. So the series champions pretty much take all the spots for rail jam. So it's quite difficult to get invited to. But that being said, under 11 years old, 10 and under, really not a big deal. They're going to get invited and they're going to have a good time. 11 over in slope style, we need to start paying a little bit more attention. So what we do is we are looking for ways to make sure that these kids do get four good tries at getting 3 good results. So this year, if you look at the schedule, there's a lot of winter parks on there, and Winter Park is not the friendliest place to go to go do your best in a slope style contest. The jumps are large and the landings are very flat, which is like pretty much the worst combo you could ask for. So what we're waiting a little bit, we're probably gonna have to go to one winter park. They might only have one that you can look at on the T map right now, but there's gonna be pretty confident there's gonna be at least two happening at Winter Park. So what we're waiting for is we're waiting for Aspen to put out their schedule and see what events are at Aspen, and also maybe some of the Southwest Series stuff as well. And what we would do is, I think that if travel's the next slide, or I'm going to skip ahead to some travel, we'll come back. What we would do is we typically only cover travel for events inside the Rocky Mountain Series. So if we've done events inside the Rocky Mountain Series, there's no extra fee for the coaches to get there, for coach hotel, coach per diem. We don't bill that out inside the Rocky Mountain Series. Typically when we've gone to Aspen in the past, we've billed that out. So what we would do is we would swap a winter park for an Aspen or for a Southwest Series, to try and go to places where our kids can really excel in a safe environment, basically. But anyway, we'll come back to that because I'm sure there's questions here on the Rocky Mountain Series stuff.
Yes. So does Team Summit, I think you meant get the kids up to the contest, or is that the parents' responsibility? I believe that's what you're asking, Tim, but if you're asking something different, just let me know.
I think I can still answer that question. So for regional events, we ask that the kids travel with their parents. For national.
Sorry, Matt. He's asking if Team Summit signs them up.
Oh, there's a great question. No, we don't. No, getting signed up for contests is the responsibility of the parents, for a lot of reasons. I mean, these things are password protected. It's going to require your credit card, stuff like that. So getting signed up is the responsibility of the parents. But we do not provide travel for regional level events. We do provide travel for national level events, and that will be billed. And that's kind of what I was talking about is we don't do any travel billing for regional level events inside our region. Outside of our region, we do some billing. National level events, we do provide the kids are allowed to like travel with the team on an overnight trip or whatever, and that is also billed, part of that billing. Do we have any more there?
Sorry, I had to get unmuted. That looks like everything for now.
Oh, excellent. That's great. Yeah, so looking beyond USASA, some of you might be there, some of you might be on the edge. We have Futures Tour. So there is life after USASA. And these are FIS contests. So FIS is the, USASA, you get some points, you get invited to USASA Nationals. FIS is the international point system. And it's sort of related to the WSPL, which is also the international snowboard system, points rated system. But any of these events, like, they kind of go together. So Futures Tour is the beginning of this international rating system. And it's Futures Tour encompasses pipe slope and cross racing. Cross racing, they have to be 15 to start Futures Tour. Pipe and slope, it's 13. I could go into why that is, but it's really kind of an old and stupid story. Honestly, there's not a great reason for the age difference between the two. But these Futures Tours, they're dual sanctioned. So it's a USASA contest and a FIS contest. So they're getting scored for USASA and they're getting scored for FIS. When they're scored for FIS is always an open age group. So FIS doesn't have age groups. It's everybody versus everybody. USASA has age groups. So they get an age group score and they get a score against everybody as well in these futures contests. They need, since they're getting two scores, they need two memberships. So it's the FIS membership and the US Ski and Snowboard membership. And when you get that US Ski and Snowboard membership, they also need a FIS license. I imagine there's some people that may want to do some of these. And I think it'd be great to approach this on a little bit more of an individual basis, for these kids that are 13 and older or 15 and older. So please feel free to ask me or Mandy any of these questions by email, or if you wanted to type something in the chat, go for it. But it's like leveling up, it's harder than USASA, but maybe that's more fun too. And we do get to do some more traveling. So we're going to go to Mammoth Slope Stop January 19th. Park City, going to do futures. These are all slope and pipe. Park City and Mammoth. So Mammoth will leave January 19th, and a large group of us is going to leave the 19th and come back on the 28th. Smaller group, I think, we'll leave the 17th and come back the 28th. A smaller group is going to leave the 17th and come back on like the 21st or 22nd. And then the Park City contest, those are the contest dates. So I think women is the 2nd, men is the 4th. And then there's like pipe in between. So we're actually going to leave for that January 31st. And then we'll come back the 6th, actually. And then there's a copper slope there, February 24th, which is a great one because it's in our backyard. So that's super nice. But anyway, there's another meeting for these kids at 3:00, and you can find that on the Academy calendar. So if you have kids who might fall into this group, that meeting at 3 is highly encouraged. So I left that blank. So NORAM Grand Prix affects very few kids, but so border cross events. We have 2 on the schedule for Rocky Mountain Series, and that's at Copper Mountain. We'll have 2 Copper Mountain. Like I was saying earlier, for these kids to qualify for nationals, they need 3 scores. They don't always need 3 good scores, but they need 3 scores. So we're going to try and find another event somewhere. And most likely Crested Butte. We've done that plenty of times in the past. It's really fun. We can travel out there and get like 2 or 3 races in 2 or 3 days. So that's pretty sweet. And then we'll also have to look and see what Aspen's got going on too, but we're going to put an effort into getting that 3rd race for these kids who really want to qualify for nationals. And then Futures Tour Border Cross, they actually just took the copper one off the schedule and added a Midwest one. But I still think that copper one's going to happen. I think they're just changing the schedule. So Border Cross typically happens in the Northwest. It's really cold and icy up there. They like their racing quite a bit. So we will be headed to Gore, and we may even be headed. Gore is in New York, I believe, and I think we're going to head to Maine for one as well. But again, that's ages 15 and older in those disciplines. Getting into some IFSA stuff. Been putting in a lot of work with IFSA and trying to make this more accessible to snowboarders. So what is it? It's Big Mountain. It is a judged event. It's not a racing event. It's judged. So it's about how you ride a venue, how you ride the natural terrain at a mountain. If you look at that picture, that is a contest that we put on at Breckenridge. That's Peak 6 at Breckenridge, and you're looking at the venue. So you're jumping off rocks. Ideally, you're riding in powder, but that's typically not the case. Jumping off rocks, jumping off cornices. Maybe you don't even leave the ground. Maybe you just make turns through some gnarly exposed chute or something, and you're getting a judged score on how you ride that venue. So for more information on this, there's freeskiers.org, which you'll need to be a member of. But I think the more informative site is this Rocky Mountain Freeride Series.com. That's the little bit more informative page, and you'll need to be a member, I believe, of Rocky Mountain Freeride Series and IFSA to do some of these events. And oh, we got someone in the waiting room here. Okay. So check out Rocky Mountain Freeride Series. They got a lot of information for new people, returning people. It's kind of a complicated process. I'm going to go to the next slide here, but so it's still expanding here. It's kind of a complicated process. And what happens is these events will sell out in under 10 minutes. And most of them are going to open up this first week of December. So you really need to be on your game when these events open up. You need to have your memberships ready, and then you just sign up. That for kids who are familiar with it, they got to get good at it fast. We do have a really cool event happening this year. We've put in some work with Copper Mountain, and actually like a little bit of work with Travis Rice too. We're going to do a mini natural selection at Copper Mountain on February 6th. So we will actually be building some features and making adjustments to the course, and like a mini natural selection thing. And we're going to have a snowboard only day, which is a really big deal because they usually only leave like 20 slots for snowboarders. And that's part of why it's so hard to get signed up. So we will actually have, like 70, 80 slots available for snowboarders to get involved with this contest at Copper. So Laura, I see on my phone, you're asking what the third one will be. This Copper one was supposed to be a double up. So we were supposed to run 2 snowboard events in one day. Instead of doing that, we're going to go to Breck. So the Breck regional in March will be our third regional event. So this year, this group travels a ton. Ideally, we're going to do 2 trips to Big Sky. That second trip, the kids have to qualify for. So that's the North American Championships is the second trip. This group will also go to Taos, Telluride, and I believe that's it. I think everything else is in region. On that same day, February 6th, there's a U12 event at Ski Cooper, and we're working on trying to get a coach available to Ski Cooper for this U12 event. USASA is what the bulk of our kids do, and it's extremely competitive and sometimes very high level. IFSA doesn't have quite the snowboard participation that USASA does. I don't know that it's less technical or less difficult. I think sometimes it might even be a little bit scarier, but these contests are super fun. Every time I've gone to one of these, it's been like fun. You do your inspection, do your run, and then we just kind of ride all day, and you're usually at places that are super cool. I mean, some of the coolest resorts out there for sure. So if you're curious about IFSA, like feel free to ask.
Matt,
Cool.
before you move on, Laura also asked if there's any flexibility on the Big Sky National to pick another.
Not really. I don't really see anything that's gonna work out, unfortunately. I can take another look, but yeah, we can talk about it a little later. But yeah, so travel policy. So what we do is we kind of add up all the costs. We do mileage for the vans and stuff when we're traveling with kids. We add up all the costs and we divide it by everybody who's going. We build these costs out before we leave. If the kids are traveling with the team, we ask that they bring money for food. So what we do now started last year. So some of you this might be new for some people, is we pay the coaches their per diem for every day they're gone. So the coaches are required to contribute to that food fund when we go to the grocery store and whatever. So we ask that everyone brings cash, and it's usually, if it's like 4 or 5 days, like everyone throws in like $20, $30, whatever, and we buy some food and we all eat together. And that's what we started doing last year, and it worked out pretty well. But again, in the USASA, we may swap out one of these winter parks, just so we're not too pigeonholed there. I mean, those landings are so flat, and it's really is scary when kids are trying to perform their best to get a good result, and it makes us very nervous. So we may swap out one of these winter parks for an Aspen, and just include that as part of our Rocky Mountain Series travel. If we do that, what would happen is we wouldn't staff that winter park event the way we normally would. It'll be staffed very, very minimally. So if kids are going to go to the winter park event, they will need a lot of parent help. It won't be like fully supervised by a coach or anything like that. Do we have more questions, Mandy?
Yes. Emma's mom was asking, going back to the IFSA stuff, For U19 big mountain snowboarding, we can do 3 regional and 3 national plus NORAMs if we qualify.
That's correct. Yep. And so IFSA qualifying for that NORAMs, they take your best 2 results out of your first 3. And so you're not allowed to do more than 3 events. They won't let you sign up for more than 3 events, I believe. And that's regional and national. Yeah. So getting into kind of the rules, and then hopefully this is just a good refresher for everybody. These are rules that kind of apply to all the disciplines. Your helmet needs to be buckled. Your helmet falls off, you're disqualified. In big mountain, they don't let the kids do flips until they're 18 or older, and they require them to wear back protectors. No matter what the event is, you have to stay on the course. That's period. You go off the course and you're disqualified. And your board must be attached. If your board comes off your feet, you get disqualified. So those rules leave kind of a lot to interpretation, right? So nobody says that you have to go straight off the jump. You can go sideways off the jump as long as your board stays attached, your helmet stays on, and you stay in the course. Nobody says that you have to take off on the ramp to hit a rail. You can totally come in from the side. You can do tricks off of a knuckle. You don't have to take off on a jump. The course is open. It's open for you to interpret, same thing in racing. There's kids who pump a lot of features and they pump. And there's kids who gap things. And both are correct. There's no one way to ride those courses. So it leaves a lot of room for interpretation. And big mountain is nothing but interpretation. No, you're not required to go down any one line. You just have to stay inside the venue. And they also have some no zones or no fall zones that you're not allowed to enter into, which we would call not part of the venue. So it's totally up to you. So there's a lot of openness, a lot of free spirit, which is, what we believe that's what makes snowboarding fun. Like, that's why we do it. Those are the type of people who are attracted to that freedom, are the type of people who like to go snowboarding. And so we want to keep that freedom in our contest. At the same time, to develop a strong foundation, to gain, lots of good usable skills, we have to have a little bit of a system. And so these jam sheets, we've made some kind of skill sheets, some tasks, some exercises, for each sort of level of our programs. And I guarantee you there is stuff on these jam sheets that even our best riders can't do. And our best riders do have like dub 10s and some 12s and maybe even some triples this year. And I guarantee you there's some exercises that they can't do on these jam sheets, some things that would take some effort. So we have skills to be built for every kid in our program. The way I look at these jam sheets is like, we're giving kids paint colors. Each skill is like a paint color that they get to put on their little palette thing. And then when they show up to these contests, whether it's a racing event, big mountain event, pipe slope, whatever, they're choosing their colors. They're choosing their colors to paint their canvas. Each course is a little bit different. Each day is a little bit different. So it's like, what color am I going to use today, sort of thing. So these jam sheets help them build out their little color wheel, so that they have, the most options to choose from and can paint the prettiest picture on contest day. So these jam sheets, and as well as our program structure, long-term athlete development, are based off these training processes created by our national governing body, who, threw the money at the research with the professionals and the good skiers and snowboarders, whatever. They've created these sort of development processes or training processes. And they're valid for kids, 2 to adulthood. And they go through everything for in-season training, out-of-season training, exercise focuses, free play, venue training, just based on age and skill level and development stage of their life. They're quite detailed. I think it's about 12 pages long in total. And we kind of read through them at least once a year, if not more. I think several of us coaches do that just to stay fresh, go through it again. And it's, yeah, good stuff. And it's what we've sort of built our programs off of. It's got a little video that I'd like to play for everybody. So some background on this video. So this is a class, and this is super cool. The kind of the COVID world has created these Zoom meetings, and I've been going to meetings like this for 20 years now. But they've never been recorded, and I've never had things to share with you guys. And now we do. So I'm excited to start doing that a little bit. But anyway, we have a professional snowboarder who's about to start talking about what he thought being a parent was going to be like, and the things that he was going to do, and how it actually goes. So that snowboarder's Todd Richards. Todd Richards is the announcer at the Olympics. He's been in movies like Out Cold, as well as, infinite number of snowboard films throughout the 90s and early 2000s. And he's still collecting checks from snowboard companies into his 50s. And there's kind of this funny battle on social media about who is the oldest person to ever do a McTwist. And it's like, by far and away, it's Todd Richards. But that's just good fun, really. So we'll listen and hear what Todd Richards has to say from this little Zoom meeting.
Here.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. And it's also, this is coming from personal experience of being a father of two teenagers. Is, I didn't have that safety net when I was growing up. I grew up skating before I was a snowboarder, and skating was always like this rebellious thing. So my parents weren't even involved.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, when I'm a father, I'm going to just be this emotional saving basket for my kids. Whatever they want to do, I'm going to be there. And it doesn't do them any favors.
Right.
It, sometimes it can turn them off to the sport that, they're into, and you're into them being into it. They will take a left turn and do something completely different. It's allowing them to fall, allowing them to make the mistake, basically giving them the life skills so they can cope when they're 20 and it's time to leave the house, instead of them, looking over their shoulder like, is this okay? And like, yeah, you need to be able to know how to put gas in your car. You need to know how to be able to cope with, being on the side of the road with a flat tire, as life may throw things at you. So
That's
making
very
sure that you
relatable.
let them fall. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are things that we've, kind of said for years, and it's so fun to hear Todd Richards say it along with us. But, we know parents want to help. And if you look at our core values, family is the foundation of our core values. And so parents want to help, and we want parents to help. So how do we do it? Right? Like, not every day is going to be this great, super amazing day. Kids will cry throughout the year. They will have a bad day. And that doesn't mean that something bad has happened necessarily. It just means that there's obstacles in sport, and those, learning to overcome those obstacles and deal with those obstacles, those are the life lessons that we want our kids to learn. Those are the life lessons that they're going to take out of snowboarding, because that's the sport they choose. So another rider that has showed up in some of these classes is Travis Rice. And in one of those classes, they're like, "Oh, Travis, you're fearless in some of these situations. Man, you've gotten so lucky, whatever. Like, how do you do it? Blah, blah, blah." And this is how he responded. He was like, "Luck favors the prepared." Being fearless is actually not a sustainable thing. Being prepared allows you to evaluate your risks and face, those fears and come away from it. I think Travis certainly puts himself in some scenarios where it could certainly go the other way, but luck favors the prepared. And that was a quote that Travis used, and learning about his mental game has been really cool. So I want to share some of those things with you guys. And you've probably heard some of this stuff before, but mental training is easily the number one way that parents can help us with their kids snowboarding. So this first one is encouraging positive self-talk. And that's not necessarily the words that come out of their mouth, but the thoughts in their head as well. And a lot of times I think those thoughts in their head are even more important than the words that come out of their mouth, or maybe they're the words that are going to come out of their mouth next. I don't know. But so my phrase, and I hope that everyone's heard me say it on this call, is don't say don't and can't say can't. If you find yourself saying don't a lot, like don't touch that, don't do that, like try and find another way to say it and watch what happens to your overall mindset. So a kid will be like, we'll be doing a task or something, and they're like, I can't do that. I'm like, well, with that attitude, you absolutely can't. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're correct. And that's what this is saying. That positive talk, it doesn't always guarantee a good performance, but that negative talk guarantees a poor performance. When you put pressure on, whether it's contest pressure or pressure of doing something new, that pressure is a catalyst for what's going on inside your head. So if those thoughts are negative, it's just the pressure just speeds up the process, and a negative result is what comes from it. So encouraging that positive talk. A couple other cool mantras or quotes is if you're not gaining, you're losing. If when you have a bad moment, like turn your focus into winning the next moment. And so encouraging positive talk is the first way that parents can really help. This next one is praise your child for their effort more than the result. And I would argue that this is the most important thing. Like if you take nothing else away from these videos or the season, let it be this. So a kid does a frontside 360, does their first 360, and you ask them, you're like, oh, that was awesome. How did you do it? And they're like, oh, I don't know, I just did. Right. So they have now forgotten about the whole process that got them there. They've forgotten about like the stance and balance edge work that worked their way into it, the switch riding, the 180s, the pop exercises, different ways to ollie and catch air, and the different jumps that they've hit, and the work in the pipe even, that help them improve their coordination and lead up to that moment. So it's like, instead of, oh, great job, how'd you do it? It's like, oh man, you've been working so hard. You did all those carving drills and you improved your balance on the edge, and now you got a 360, right? So you're teaching them to leave breadcrumbs. You're teaching them to leave a trail of how to get successful results when you praise them for their effort more than the result. And that same thing goes for contests. The effort that they put in to being prepared for a contest is far more important than the result that comes out of it. Especially at some of these younger ages, everyone is going to reach a point in their career where they are not on the podium way more than they ever were on the podium, right? So there's like a little bit of a delayed gratification thing here. They might win all the time at USASA, and then they move on to Futures Tour, and the winning gets harder, right? And then from Futures Tour, they go to NORAMs, and it gets harder to get back on the podium. And then they might go to World Cups, and they never actually get on the podium. And unique to snowboarding is that doesn't even deny them a career. They might have a great career. There's plenty of snowboarders out there who have great careers, and they've never had a World Cup podium. And so this effort is what leads to skills. It's not necessarily contest results that lead to more skills, but the effort in gaining new skills and refining the skills that they have is what ultimately makes them great snowboarders. So this is really what starts the process, is praising them for their effort more than the result. And if that's not something you're great at and you just want to leave that to the coaches, fine. You can always tell them you love to watch them ride, whether it's a great day or kind of a tough day. I loved watching you do it. I love watching you put the work in. I love watching you ride. There's studies in every sport that say that is the number one thing that parents can tell their kids. So it never hurts to tell them you love to watch them ride. I threw another little quote in there. You know, if you want to make it upstairs, trying to go to your room, you want to make it upstairs, you have to touch each step. Or I guess you could skip a few steps if we're talking about walking upstairs, but you have to touch steps to get upstairs. You don't just like, boom, I'm here. There's a process that takes place to get up there. And so we got to focus on that process. The other thing that happens in snowboarding is like, you know, early on, younger years, kids make gains real quick. As they get older, those gains come slower and the obstacles in front of them get bigger, right? So focus on the process, and the obstacles in front of them, just focus on the process gets more important, and then the obstacles in front of them keep getting harder. It really doesn't ever get easier, unfortunately. And the third way that parents can help is just to remember that snowboarding is fun. A lot of you guys at this level are starting to realize that it's like quite a big time commitment, decent financial commitment. People on this call have changed their lives to help their kids snowboard more. And I'll tell you what, if it's not fun, then something is wrong. It needs to be fun. It's snowboarding. That path of fun does change quite a bit as the kids move on. You know, so maybe they started snowboarding and it was introduced to Team Summit or ski school or whatever, and the snowboarding was just fun. It's just cool to be out snowboarding. They snowboard more and more, and they're like, man, I want to get better at snowboarding. Like learning things on my snowboard is fun. This program, I would say that the typical thing that we hear is like, I want to qualify for nationals, which is a pretty good sign that competing is fun. And again, you know, when that competing gets fun and we put tons of effort into the process, I think that's what leads them to believe that achieving is fun. And sometimes, you know, that achieving is winning, and sometimes that achieving is just getting as many tricks as they can. There's we've had kids, you know, who did some contests in their early teenage years and then stopped doing the contest, but like their training really didn't slow down. You know, by the time they left high school, they'd actually done like some doubles and some tens and lots of crazy different things. And the contest really didn't matter to them, but the achieving did. It was important to keep making gains. And so, you know, as kids get older, you know, and they move into even video parts and stuff, that achieving becomes fun. And I think one of the hard things for a lot of adults to remember here is if they did things at a high level, did sports at a high level, professional level, they left their sport in the winning is fun and the achieving is fun zone. That's where they left their sport. And it's hard to remember that that's not where your kids start out. That's not where your kids are now. Your kids might be in training is fun. Maybe they're in competing is fun, right? So recognizing that pathway that leads them there through fun is also important. And it's one of the considerations that we have in setting up our programs and our coaching staff and doing all our training as well. So a lot of effort into making sure that snowboarding stays fun. So we've talked a lot about what parents should do here. And, you know, basically we're asking parents to, you know, support the coaches, support the kids, keep communication with their coaches, keep communication with their kids. Kids tell coaches things they won't tell their parents, and they tell parents things that they won't tell their coaches. So that triangle of communication is very important. Healthy snacks, arrive on time. Yeah, communicate with the coach, and you know, we don't mind if you guys are watching training, watching your kids' day. We just ask that you do it from afar, do it from the sidelines, from the other side of the run, you know, whatever. Because it's maybe it's not distracting to your kid, but it's distracting to someone else's kid. But one thing I do guarantee you is your kid will act differently when you're around as opposed to when you're not around. So we really want to let them be themselves and help them as best we can. And sometimes that does involve you guys on the sideline. So I got another video here. This is Rick Shimpano, and he's kind of talking along the lines of keeping snowboarding fun. So for those of you that know who Rick is or don't know who Rick is, he is the U.S. team head half pipe coach. So he's worked with guys like Ben Ferguson. He currently works with, Chloe Kim and some of those other pipe athletes. So Rick is the head US team pipe coach, and I think this will be his second or third Olympic cycle with the team right now, which is quite a long time, to be honest. And he's just talking about on how to keep snowboarding fun and how to look at a season and look at some of the contests that are going on. Oh, trying to find the play button. Sorry. There we go.
You are picking on people. You're picking on me. Well, I want to kind of piggyback on what Mike Jankowski said. I thought he said some great stuff, but kind of where my brain went to is like why we do this stuff, why we get out of bed, why you go back up to hit.
Oh, sorry.
Jump of the rail again after you slammed on it like 10 times and stuff. And like for me, mine is clear, and I
I'm gonna let my internet catch up for just 1 second.
You are picking on people. You're picking on me.
Oh,
Well, I want to kind of piggyback on what Mike Jankowski said. I thought he said some great stuff, but kind of where my brain went to is like why we do this stuff, why we get out of bed, why you go back up to hit the jump of the rail again after you slammed on it like 10 times and stuff. And like for me, mine is clear, and I found my people, I found my tribe, and I love this stuff, and I want to hang out with people like you. So, and I know you guys are in that same boat, but I think, identifying that early on and like being stoked with it and being stoked with what you're doing and why you're doing it. And kind of like Bosch was saying too, it's not necessarily about, sometimes you got to think about the judges and what they're looking for, but a lot of times when you make yourself happy, you make the judges happy. When you land the run that you're really stoked on, the judges are going to be stoked too. And if they're not, wait until the next contest you go to. The judging gets better and better as you go to these bigger contests and stuff. So, and this kind of, for me, is kind of hits home because I haven't, been able to snowboard or skateboard like all summer because I got hurt, but I'm really looking forward to getting back on a skateboard and on a snowboard. So it's not even a question for me like, oh, do I want to keep doing this? It's like, yes, I want to keep doing this, So I know for you guys and girls, I know a lot of you have maybe thought about that or maybe not thought about it too much, but maybe it's something in between this call and the next call. You can, it's a nice thing you can do like in a quiet time too. And even if you just remember like, oh, and like Kaylee said, I miss snowboarding. I want to go snowboarding so bad. I want to learn a new trick. I want to jump on that rail that I fell off of last year and got hurt on or whatever, So that's a really important thing for you guys. And I think too, when you look at the pipeline and you look at the contests that we are deriving these results from and the rankings from, there's also really fun like local events, like little handrail contests and bank slalom events. And that's a thing that can really, if you do forget your why, which happens sometimes when you're going to these bigger contests and the pressure's on and stuff, like, you can go to an event like that or an event like the Mount Baker bank slalom, which is so important. And it's not on any of our lists, but if there's time in a season to support your local club and to shred with your buddies or to build a backyard kicker and just remember that why, that's a huge part of it. And like I said, Jen kind of talked about it a little bit, Boschman talked about it a little bit, but that's so important. So I think sometimes when we're in this pipeline and we're looking at the numbers and we're looking at the graphs and stuff, that can get a little bit lost. So just make sure you guys are thinking about that and like, whatever that is, some people call it like feeding the stoke or whatever, just make sure you run your buddies alongside of, chasing the points and stuff like that. Cause it's the same beast, and we're trying to get her at all sides of it. But a lot of times, remembering how fun snowboarding is super important too. So just a lighter note on that.
Cool. So a little more context there. Rick is he's talking to a group of what's called Gold Camp athletes. So these are kids, believe 18 and under or 19 and under, who are on the US team pathway. And so all these meetings were virtual this year. So it's 13 to like 19 years old is the audience that he's talking to here. And we were privileged to sit in on some of these. I found it interesting that he's talking about having the most fun in a contest, and that's what judges like. One of the athletes that he coached growing up, and we know this because a lot of us coaches are good friends with Rick. He worked at Woodward at Copper for a while, and he's a good friend of mine. But one of the kids that he coached when they were little, and probably this rider's like primary coach was Danny Davis. And I mean, Danny Davis embodies that philosophy wholeheartedly. And I'm sure that that's something that him and Rick connected on big time. So, athletes as well as parents should remember that snowboarding is fun. And, we will head to some bank slalom events and stuff like that. And yeah, there's no points in a bank slalom, but it doesn't mean that it is not super fun. So keep that in mind there. As well as parents kind of taking responsibility for getting their athletes to training on time, there are plenty of things that the kids can do to help their parents out. So showing up on time is not just a parent responsibility. Our ideal situation, our ideal scenario is the kids are waking the parents up to get ready for training. So keep that in mind. Along with that, we want the kids to listen and apply their feedback and, just work on keep getting better in their snowboarding. Goal sheets. I would say most kids don't think goal sheets are really that cool, but they're so important, especially as the obstacles get bigger and the contests get bigger, and it just helps you stay focused every day. Going back to some of what Copper Mountain is doing for us, this program and this group of kids specifically, we have a lot to be thankful for. So we, respecting the other riders on the mountain, whether they're Team Summit or not. Copper has a lot of new employees, a lot of people who are new to the mountains in general, and even some of our youngest riders, maybe more experienced than a lot of those employees. Treating them with respect, especially for all that they're doing, is really, really important. In some of my talks with some of these guys in these different Zoom meetings, it's becoming pretty clear that there are so many kids out there who are so good at snowboarding that there's really not enough room in the sort of professional ranks, the paid sponsorship ranks for all these kids. So being a good snowboarder is just one part of that career puzzle. And all the things that go along with like having good character and being a respectful person, that's the other part. And that part is becoming increasingly more important all the time. So helping these kids be respectful people, be respectful humans, and treat everyone kindly is very important. Coaches' responsibilities. So just, we want parents communicating with coaches and their kids, but we want coaches communicating with parents and the athletes, that maintaining that triangle. We want the coaches to help the kids feel prepared for the contest. Number one priority for these coaches is to keep training safe. The number two priority is to have fun. And if we do that, we believe the kids are going to learn a lot. And have a lot of fun. So a lot of this stuff, and we're praising the kids for their results more than their or for their effort more than their results, and that is our process, right? But that does not mean that we like to lose. So in fact, we refuse to lose. And the way we define losing is letting that moment, whether it's a moment or a person or a group of people or a season or whatever, letting that moment make us feel like smaller people than we really are. Letting that moment like not let us showcase our best, So when we show up to these contests and we focus on our values and our proven processes and our philosophies, we're going to bring our best, right? It doesn't mean we won't get beat. It doesn't mean we won't fall. It doesn't mean any of those things, but it just means that like everyone is going to have to beat our best every time we show up somewhere. And if we do those, we believe that we can't lose. We will never lose. So you'll get some reminders from me, you know, throughout the season on different ways to focus on the process and praise your athletes for the processes more than the results. But at this time, Mandy, do we have any other questions?
I don't see any questions, but Jeff responded to earlier when you said, don't say don't, can't say can't. He said his grandma always said, can't, never, could do anything.
Nice. I'll add it to the list. I like it. Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, if there's no other question, oh, something just popped up. I can see the chat now, Mandy. Oh, thanks, Mandy.
Okay.
Right on. You're welcome. So yeah, if there's no other questions, feel free, you know, questions regarding USASA, you can send those to Mandy and stay heads up on some communication with the new meeting locations and we'll work on keeping you guys up to date with times and stuff like that. Our first day of training for part-time kids is going to be November 27th, right after Thanksgiving. We're going to start the Friday training after the holidays for those part-time programs as well. It's like 2 weekends or something that we're not going to do the Fridays, but and then those days will get made up, you know, more towards the end of the season when the snow is actually, you know, quite nice, quite good. So yeah, stay tuned for more. I can see the chat there. Let's see. So stoked. Right on. Yeah, any questions you guys have, feel free. It's Mandy at teamsummit.org or Maddie V at teamsummit.org. And I think everyone's pretty familiar with mine at this point. So thank you very much, everybody.